very fast. But again, why when we need technology, technology requires data, and we start needing data from people, and we are collecting all these samples, putting them together. But at the end of the day, now we ask ourselves is how best can we protect this data? How best can we make sure that the right data, the data that we are collecting is the right data? So all this happens, and the issue of cybercrime and fraud and all these things from SME's perspective to this to banks and every other institution, then comes in how do we protect these jewels that we have, which is data. And now the government had to come in and say, how do we go ahead and make sure that the normal money is being protected from these organizations, because they are transacting with our personal data. And the government had to come up with an act, and the act was drafted, and yes, later on made to a law. And now this brings us to this a very insightful discussion of then how is this act, or how is this act affecting us as SMEs, in terms of what do we collect, how do we keep your data? And so here we are looking really insightful discussion of how do we help SMEs, understand the act and implement it in the organization. So back to you, Cephas. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm struggling with this mute and unmute thing. So I think I'll just be on the safe side, not muting myself. Anywho, I will go to Amos.
Yeah, thank you, Cephas. I think my colleague has alluded and talked more about the need for the Data Protection Act and why it's coming timely. So we are talking about the digital transformation, which is cutting across all the industries. And the key rider to all the digital transformation is data. There is a common cliche where data is the new oil. And at the same time, we've seen data has been used or exploited for commercial purposes, or somebody has gotten embarrassed from an individual perspective. So from a global perspective, there is a couple of laws that which are cutting across all the countries. There's a GDPR. So even as we speak locally within our environment, the Data Protection Act, we are like connecting or binding together with what's happening within the global, because specific countries cannot, share data or share the digital landscape with a country which doesn't have a strong data privacy and data regulation. So So first?
Please proceed. Sorry, I thought I had lost you.
All right. So apart from thinking locally, we also, as part of the digital village, the one which is the global one. So we are adhering to that, and we are trying to ensure that the two parties which are communicating, there's the user who will be in this instance called the data subject, who we are trying to protect, so that information which we can classify as personal identifier information is protected from unauthorized disclosure. And at the same time, there are obligations which are the data processes that need to abide. Yeah, that need to abide to. So those will be my opening remarks. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Good, you've raised the issue of data subject and processors and all. I think we'll get into that shortly. All right, so Stanley with us.
you hear me?
Stanley, is that you?
Yes.
Oh yeah, yes. Please give us an introductory remark.
Yes. My colleagues have said a lot about that act, but remember, this creation of the act is meant that there's no a singular consolidated statute dealing with data-related issues. So there have been issues, and the government has been like waiting for 10 years to come up with a law that can help the customers. It's really about the customer and the consumer to ensure there's privacy. There's privacy in their data. It's really about the consumer, about the customer. And we waited for 10 years, and finally the law was enacted on November 8th, 2019. And really, it will help a lot in terms of how organizations collect data, and sometimes it will help a lot curb widespread privacy breaches by private corporations rather than the fragmented and piecemeal provisions scattered in various statutes. So this law is really a comprehensive formulation that was long coming. It was long coming. Thank you.
Yeah, good point. It was definitely long coming, and the big point is data privacy is fundamentally supposed to safeguard the consumer or the user. So that's definitely a very important aspect of privacy. Robert?
Thank you, Cephas. And the problem of being chosen the last one, you are bound to repeat what your colleagues have already said and really look like you don't have your own ideas. But let me try to just point out what they have not said so that I don't repeat. That the data, the Constitution of Kenya spells out the right to privacy in Section 31, and the Data Protection Act came in to now detail exactly what does this entail, especially to answer to the C part and the D part of that right, the right to privacy. The C part was saying that you are not compelled to reveal information about yourself, the people who related to you, unnecessarily, but that is too general. And the privacy bit is quite huge, and that is why the data protection came now specifically to talk about which is this information that is called personal, which is this data that we want to call personal. And just to quickly, I don't know if I'm going ahead of you, to quickly say this is information that can be used to identify Robert. If you say he's fat cannot identify me, but if you give somebody my telephone number, that has identified me. So that data qualifies to be called personal data. And that is what data we are talking about here. So Surface, I don't know if that is introductory enough.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I think all of you have done it right to, mention different aspects of, what I'll call a description of data privacy. It's always good to start with the basics, but I think we've really touched on key points about, you've raised there's data, then there's personal data or sensitive data. And generally protection laws are meant to guard or govern personal data. So that's a very important aspect. Stanley brought the issue of, consumers or users as the subject of protection laws. Saitoti talked about data subjects, which obviously refers to consumers or the owners of data in reference. So those are very important aspects of what data privacy really is. And now that you've addressed those, I know there could be others. Feel free to also just expound on some of these aspects as we go along. So having had that introductory comments, I'd like to jump into 3 or 4 areas which I think should take us about 45 to 50 minutes, based on the guideline that was shared with all of you. And I'll start to I want us to start with the foundations of data protection. And at this juncture, I'll ask anyone to jump in at any point in time. If you have a new point, please just come in and raise it. No need to ask for permission or get